welcome everyone. It's amazing to me to have people here from different places in the world. We have Ireland, we have Tucson, Oregon, Washington, and Illinois, which so far, which is amazing. There may be a few more people joining us. So today I'm going to talk about confidence. And it's such an interesting, really simple concept. I think people, oh, and then, sorry, just a couple of house rules before I go forward. I would love it if people would mute as right now for the first part of the presentation. And then when we go to coaching, of course, we'll all be on to be able to talk. Thank you very much. And today, I'm going to talk about confidence as a concept and as a tool. So first, I want everyone to sort of, when you come to Thought Salon, it's a chance to be open-minded, to be willing to go down some rabbit holes with me, because what we're doing in terms of coaching is looking at our thoughts and looking at them as if we are watching a movie of our thoughts sort of going by. It's a little Buddhist in nature. And coaching is a little bit that way, because what we want is to have some distance on our brains so we can understand what our brains is doing to us, okay? And so get out your journal and your pen, and then think of questions as we go through to bring to the last part, which is group coaching. So again, today I will be talking about confidence, and this idea as a concept and a tool is really useful in our art, in our creative practice, in the studio, in whatever business we have, whether that's a career or whether that's, a business where we're selling products or services. And then, of course, in our life, as we make decisions and decide which pathways we're going to go down. So I will talk on this concept a little for about 10, 15 minutes, and then I'll open it up to questions and then to group coaching. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here. All right. So first, for those of you who are new to me, I just want to do a quick introduction. This is a picture of me on San Juan Island painting at my favorite place in the world, which Wendy Smith will understand, which is South Beach. It's a beautiful beach. I'm very drawn to beaches. There's lots of driftwood on this beach, which creates this very abstract and very interesting place to go. I don't paint there all the time. As anyone who has tried plein air painting understands, sometimes it's windy, sometimes it's rainy, but once in a while I get to go there and do that. So I'm an inveterate beachcomber, and my background is I have an MFA and PhD in poetry and writing before I turned to art. So at that point, when I turned to art, I'm practicing what I'm telling you now in hopes that when you actually try to explain what you do to people, for people in your art, that you can practice this as well. And as you saw, I moved my eyes from looking over here at you guys to looking at the little green light. I'm practicing that as well. So thank you for your patience. So I started out as a writer, and then I really came into my life's goal as to learn how to paint. I was always very afraid of it and very uncertain and not confident. So I didn't start painting until I turned 50. So I feel like I have some experience to speak from when I talk about confidence, having really struggled to learn it myself. So most of my life, I was a writer. I wrote for Seattle Magazine about food, wine, and travel. I studied poetry, but I've always been obsessed with art history, the creative process, and helping artists now. I have a program called the Metaphor Mindset Studio. Some of you are in it, where it's one-on-one coaching and a 5-step process that I've kind of developed to move towards success in your creative life and in a business scenario, in your career, and also the Art Business Circle community. If you're not a part of that, it is growing. I think we have 9 or 10 members now. So, what is confidence? I want to start out with a definition. So, confidence is the feeling or belief that one can rely on someone or something. It's a firm trust. It's the state of feeling certain about the truth of something and a feeling of self-assurance arising from one's appreciation of one's own abilities or qualities. This picture is of Georgia O'Keeffe. And Georgia O'Keeffe is famous for saying, "I've been absolutely terrified every moment of my life, and I've never let it keep me from doing a single thing I wanted to." So as we go through this concept, I want you to remember what you're thinking now and questions and comments and thoughts about this, because I would love to hear from you. And in fact, please use the chat for that. You can write down thoughts and I'll go back over them as we go. Okay. So, this idea of confidence is very tied to self concept and to selfhood. So, this is the rabbit hole I'm going to go down for a minute, and I think it is fruitful. This is Rene Descartes, an 18th century philosopher, sitting in his philosophy room, looking at the light streaming through the window, looking at all of science that was brought up through humanism in the Renaissance, where no longer was God the only authority, but the self started to sort of be, and the humans started to be honored and studied. The idea of psychology that was brought sort of from the ancients into the Renaissance, into the 18th century, and then into the 19th and 20th century started to develop. And Rene Descartes is famous for this saying, cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. The concept of philosophy was what is a human? Who are we? And how do we even study that? How do we even think about that? So this was his sort of baseline. Well, I'm human. How do I even know that? Who I am? I think I'm having these thoughts, so therefore I must exist. So this was, speaking of rabbit holes, or hoops that he was jumping through, this was the logical argument that he was making about what it is to be human and what humans are. And of course, there's the whole question of, are humans separate from animals? Do animals think and all that? Maybe we'll talk about that another day. And maybe the rabbit in the rabbit hole can help us. All right. So, but his thought actually developed from cogito ergo sum into other ideas that he ended up melding together into another statement, which is, I doubt, therefore I think, and I think, therefore I am. So it looks like this. Dubito, oh, I'm missing a slide. Dubito, cogito. So I doubt, dubito. I think, therefore I think, cogito, and then I think, therefore I am. So I guess what I wanted to bring up from bringing this point in was, to think is to doubt. To think is to question. To think is to wonder. So I'm going to go into these three ideas of doubting, thinking, and then belief or confidence. Okay, so we're going backwards a little bit in time here, obviously. So to doubt. Doubt comes from the word that is the base for duality or two. So having being of two minds, making decisions, having two options. So this duality of mind, Descartes says, is one of the baseline qualities of being human. Our brains doubt. This is how we've developed everything in the whole world, everything around us. We've thought, what is over that hill? What is outside this cave? What is outside this forest? I might be afraid of it, but I'm going to go there anyway because my curiosity is driving me. So I don't know. I'm wondering what would work better. I'm hesitating, but I'm trying something. I'm fearing, but I'm questioning. I'm feeling uncertain. I'm wavering, but I'm wondering. I'm wondering what is out there. So I want to propose that these ideas of doubt, of thoughts, of beliefs are sentences in our minds. And the sentences in our minds have created the world. So a doubt is a thought. A thought is a little bit maybe more neutral version of a doubt, okay? Right? A doubt might be that hesitation, that distrust, that fear, it's still a thought. It's still a sentence in your mind. So a thought, the concept of a thought is to imagine, to conceive in the mind, to meditate on something, to remember, to intend, to wish, to desire, to consider. So it's the idea of looking not only to the future, things that we might be afraid of or hopeful for, but also to the past, to remember things. These are the sentences in our mind that can be a broad range of concepts. All right. And then the third part of this, what we're going to talk about today, is belief. A belief is a thought that you think over and over. So, a thought that you believe over and over might be um, there is a God. All right. So, a belief, often our beliefs are handed down to us through our parents, through society, through what we see and experience in the world. Once I see a flame and as a kid, I touch that flame and I'm burned, the first time, it may not take more than one thought for me to believe that fire burns and it will hurt me. Other thoughts may take more thought work over and over. For instance, believing in God. Maybe you need to think about that a lot. You need to practice that in order to come to a faith or a belief. Or, on the other hand, you may start out being given the belief in God and then work from there in your own mind to come to some other belief system, some other religion or non religion. So, a belief is a thought you think over and over. Now, it can be belief itself, can be a confidence in that, a trust in what your thoughts have brought you to, or an esteem for something or someone or an idea that you respect. It comes from the base word, the root word of to care or to love in Proto-Indo-European. I don't need to go into that, but it is something we hold to be true. We care for, we love, we esteem, we trust in. And this idea of trusting in something that is true to us because we've thought it over and over is similar in the way that it's a faith in something we don't know as fact, but we believe anyway, right? So there's that separation that we have between something we can see in the real world and then something we just want to hold true because we believe in it as an idea, like God or art. Okay, so I want to separate the idea of confidence versus self confidence. And this was given to me by my coach, Brooke Castillo. She has a podcast episode called Confidence versus Self Confidence. I think it's very fascinating. It's the idea that our self has, our thoughts, and our brain uses the past and the future as tools to help us remember things, to learn things, and also to learn, to hope for things, to decide we're going to do things, to have imagination towards the future. So confidence is sort of a past concept. We know how to drink a glass of water. I think most of us here have confidence that you could drink a glass of water. Why? Because you've done it. When you were a child, you maybe weren't, your brain hadn't developed enough to think, I can walk, I can run. But once you took a few steps and you fell down, then you had started to have confidence that you could walk or ride a bike or write your name. All of these things build confidence. these practices and activities build confidence in something that you have already done. So Brooks suggests that self-confidence is a little different. It's the concept that I can do it. Now, I've maybe, I remember getting on a plane for the first time and flying to England. I didn't know I could do it because I'd never done it before. I didn't have confidence that I could do it or I have done it, but I did have self confidence that I could do it. So I, right now, might have self confidence that I can take a trip to Italy. I've never done it before. So how would I know? But I have done certain parts of it. I also have a belief in my mind that I can travel. Now, if I was a person that had the thought over and over and over, oh, travel is scary, and I don't want to travel, then I wouldn't have the self confidence that I could go by myself to Italy. So you see the difference between confidence, things we've done before, self confidence, which is kind of a combination of the past, and then things we want to do. And that together is a very powerful motivating factor in our lives. All right. So I kind of want to move this into the confidence triangle, which is a set of beliefs and a sort of a necessary set of beliefs for us to make progress in our art, in our careers. On the bottom is that belief in self. These are thoughts that we have practiced over and over to say, I am an artist. I can draw, I can paint, I can make collage. You have the confidence in that. Now, it may vary, it may go up and down. We may have hesitations. We may have doubts around ourselves, but we are here in this webinar because everybody here has the confidence that they are an artist on some level, or a scholar. I know there's one person who here isn't a visual artist, but is a scholar. And that work in the past has created that belief in self. So then the next thing we have is a belief in our art or our practice or our creative practice or what we share with the world. And I see this belief as sort of a belief in art as a concept. We believe in that art changes lives. Why? Because it's changed our lives. We believe in thinking and studying and knowledge as something that has changed our lives. So we believe in it as a concept because we've practiced those thoughts. The third part of it is harder. Belief in others. Belief in others that others will want what you have to offer the world. And we're going to go deeper into this, but this is where most of the problem happens. Believe me, a lot of problems happen in the belief in self part. A lot of problems happen in the belief in art part, that art is worth it, is worth what we do. But most of the problems come when we try to believe that others want or need or love what we do. Okay, so I'm going to put a new title on this same thing called the sales triangle or the entrepreneurship triangle. So in entrepreneurship, in sales, often a sort of a difficult word for many artists, but I'm going to work us through that. First, we have to have a belief in ourselves as an artist, as an entrepreneur, as someone who can make art that other people want or make something that can help others. Then we have our belief in art, in art as a concept. And then we have to believe that there are people out there that want what we have, that will see the world the same way that we do, that love the colors that we love, that love, the jewelry that we love, or the sculpture, or the ideas, the humor. It's all about finding those people out there that you connect with. So that's the sales triangle. And think about, where this breaks down for you. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So what I like to do now is just give you a minute, 1 minute, I'll put it on my timer, to write down a list of some thoughts that you have in each area. If you have belief in yourself, maybe rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. And then note which area it breaks down for you the most. Okay, I'm gonna give you 2 minutes, because I'd like you to sort of spend time doing this, writing some thoughts, writing some numbers, and just taking that for a moment. Okay, go ahead. Academy Award goes to okay, great. Close that. Okay. Okay, so I'm curious about what you have found in this and what you wrote. So I would like to take just a second to talk about this before I finish, but I will bring us back to the confidence idea. So please put in the chat maybe any insight, any thought that you had about this idea. And I'm going to start with one of for myself, okay, to just maybe make you feel better. Um, this thought, I can't draw, has been dogging me for a long time, and I've been really working on it as a thought. It sort of broke this, broke down here in myself. Okay. So just to give you this idea of we maybe perceive other people as being a certain way, but then we look at them and we don't know what's going on in their mind at all. Okay, so belief in others. Who on earth would appreciate what I do? Yes. Lauren, what you do is very specific and very interesting and very esoteric, right? So as we get into that, we kind of feel like we're in our own little cave doing our own thing. Wendy, still feel the need to simplify what I offer, not succinct enough or straightforward enough or simple enough. There's a book out by this guy Yuval, can't remember his last name, Harari, and he was interviewed on by Ari Melber, and he proposed this idea that the problem we have with news and truth and all of that is that the truth, I wrote this and this is on my computer, truth is expensive, complex, and painful. And I love that because as we try to simplify things, and we know that people need simple things, but the truth is often very complex and it's hard to communicate that complexity sometimes. So I understand this in business, in our life, in our art. I think it's a very interesting concept. Okay, and when I'm in self, I believe in myself and art. Belief in others is harder for me. Yes, you are not alone, Anne. Okay, so this is sort of yeah, Charlotte, I agree with Anne. Okay, so this is a good segue into this next part of what we're going to talk about. Okay. Um, self-concept theory. Carl Rogers was a psychiatrist who was on the level, of Freud. He was after Freud, but he came up with this idea of the self-concept. It didn't really exist as a concept before Carl Rogers. And he saw the self as a fluid pattern of perceptions and then the values attached to that. So note it's longer, but I wanted to simplify it for the slide, right? This fluid pattern of perceptions is the self, and then the values that are attached to that. So so his idea of the self concept is my thoughts and feelings about me, my thoughts and feelings about others, and my thoughts and feelings about life in general. So it's patterns and parts, it's all different things patched together. It is fluid and changing. Again, the Zen Buddhism. It is awareness and the unaware, right? The conscious and the subconscious. It's the ego and the id, right? It's all these different parts that we're aware of, that we're not aware of, we're always worried about the things we're not aware of, right? Like I know there's lots of things about me that I'm not aware of. I don't see that others see. So I'm kind of worried about that, right? What are they seeing that I'm not seeing? Is it something terrible, right? Or irritating or annoying or whatever. So this is our self concept. It's our thoughts and feelings about ourself, about others, and about life. It's all wrapped into one. Okay, so and he says the key to self concept is going back to the past as a tool is if you were raised in an atmosphere, and this is his psychological sort of like curative, right? If you were raised in an atmosphere of unconditional positive regard, meaning your parents loved whatever you did, knowing that there was some sort of unconditional love there, he said that that could create what he calls a real self, which always feels worthy no matter what, which there is a trust in the worthiness of the self. And even if we have that real self, this unconditional positive regard, or this inbuilt like knowing that we're worthy in the world, that we deserve to be here, there's always problems with that too, right? Because it could go into narcissism, or it could go into, we're worried about that. We don't want to be overly self-confident, arrogant. And then of course, when we have a real self, we still feel doubt, etc. But Carl Rogers says also it can create what he calls an ideal self. If we grew up in an atmosphere of conditional positive regard, that everything in our life was transactional. Either, we were worthy only if it matched the conditions that others laid out. Like, if you don't read, if you don't go to bed on time, you're a bad boy, right? If you don't keep your knees together when you're wearing your dress, you're a bad girl, right? All of these conditional elements that we grew up with, especially, I don't think it's really culture centric. I think every culture has their own version of that, but we think of it in terms of especially, Puritanistic, Protestantistic, or Western thought, Western religion, Catholicism too, guilt, shame, all of those things. Okay, so if you're worthy only if it matches the conditions of what others have laid out, your parents, your teachers, society, the patriarchy, right, the matriarchy, then there's an incongruence with your real self, and what you should be, this ideal self, and therefore it's out of reach and it's unattainable. So now we may both have had a combination of this, right? The self is fluid. We may sometimes have been had an unconditional positive regard from a mentor, from one parent. And on the other hand, one parent may have given us complete conditional positive regard. You know, the father may be encouraging and supportive, and the mother may be judgmental and wanting to keep order in the house. In Or it may be the opposite. One may have been really religious, one may have not. You know, it's this is all in flux, fluid, etc. But this idea of real self, which is 100% worthy, and in my belief, every human being is 100% worthy to be a human being, because we are, in a sense, the culmination of evolution, or God, if you want to think that way. That's not how I think, but evolution has created us as human beings to sort of this level where we can think and create things. So therefore, I am sort of the culmination of that, which will continue. But I deserve to be here because I am a human being, and all animals and plants and everything deserves to be here because they grow. Okay, so then we have this real self, and then we have this idealized self, ideal self in our minds. And we have to wrestle with that and hold those concepts both to be true at the same time. This is Keats' negative capability. Holding two ideas in your mind at the same time, they conflict. It's cognitive bias, right? Which one do I believe? I look for evidence of the real self. I look for evidence of the ideal self, and they are in conflict. Okay. So this idea of how to create new beliefs, to create new confidence in ourselves, with the concept of intentional, misspelled, thought creation, or ITC is easier to say. Thoughts you think over and over. How to do that. I love this from Jack Benny. How do I get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. Or as Anne would say, or Scottish would say, how do I get to Carnegie Hall? I love it. So practice, practice, practice. I practice thoughts. This is the idea of thought work, of the thought salon. Okay, so what I would like to do next is show you one of my practices for creating thoughts. I have what I call a belief wall. If anybody's who has hands up if you watched, oh, please put it in the chat, the name of the show about the soccer coach. Oh my gosh, it's just out of my head. He has this big word belief on top of his, here it is. Ted Lasso, yes, thank you. A belief on top of his, above the door, and it gets ripped up and it gets put back together. So I love that. It's funny, it's fun. And so I created what I call a belief wall. I put my beliefs on it, which I hope are nourish, listen, and courage. These have been like my words of the year. And I practice this stuff. And of course, if you're in Metaphor Mindset Studio, you know I have 3 strategies for my creative process, and I share with you, which is create an atmosphere in your mind. This is what we're doing today. We're creating an atmosphere in our mind where we can be successful and learn new thoughts and learn new ways to move forward. Then we take action, we make decisions, and walk the path. And then I also have 3 essentials, which at any one time, I'm only working on 3 things. It's hard to do because we want to get overwhelmed, but I don't indulge in being overwhelmed. It's an emotion that I try to calm through this work. Okay, so now let's go to coaching. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I would love to hear your questions, your thoughts about all of this. And let me get my screen kind of put back together here. Zoom is like Tetris. It's kind of fun getting all these screens opened. Okay. So you can unmute and you can raise your hand either by going to the reactions down at the bottom. you can raise your hand, or you can just raise your physical hand. And I would love to bring someone up to talk about thoughts around this. Any ideas? Okay, Charlotte. Any ideas, from what you wrote down or just what came up for you? Or
Yeah, that I love looking at the belief triangle, um, just in how I waver in each of those three areas and how sometimes under a particular circumstance I'm really strong in one and really weak in the other. And then it kind of shifts depending on the circumstance. And I am my art, if you will, my craft is teaching, and I've been in a very formal environment for decades. And so the idea, I guess, in a way, it's the idea of teaching a required course where I have a captive audience, students have to be there. And sure, I want the good feedback at the end of the term, but I've got them, right? Versus more of an elective course, which is kind of what I'm trying to develop in video and um, artistic curriculum. And capturing people's attention. So, um, developing this confidence that I will be able to attract, right, the desires of people to learn what I have to offer and present it in a way that's going to keep them coming in. They're not getting grades, right? They don't have to be there.
okay. All right. So why don't you share maybe right now? You did a little bit, but narrow it down and let me know maybe one thought or one sentence that you are thinking now, that is maybe problematic, or like not helping you have the confidence. Like, what's a sentence that keeps coming up in your mind about this? And you might have already said it just a minute ago, but repeat.
No, I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah, there is a relevance. Okay, there is this fear, if you will, that of a fear that I won't be able to create something that feels relevant to my audience,
Okay. All right.
or
Now,
a lack of confidence. Maybe not a fear.
okay,
I don't
yeah,
know.
which are
Maybe
very
sometimes it
similar,
is a fear.
right?
Yeah,
It's very
right,
similar because
right.
you have confidence that you can teach. You've taught for many years,
Yeah,
right? So the
yeah,
confidence in teaching is not a problem, right? That's this side of the triangle.
yeah.
In a sense, the confidence in your art, or your yourself and your teaching, your topics, is not
Hmm.
the problem. You know how to do
Right.
it. You have confidence. And you have enough self-confidence to look forward and say, I'm going to create this class, right? You know you can do it because you have these two sides.
Right.
But the belief in the other people, that's the factor.
Yeah.
Now, you've made a career of believing in your students, right? That's why they love you. And
Yeah.
this applies to teaching, to art, to anything. We have the experience of our mentors, our teachers, our parents believing in us, or we wouldn't be this far, right? Unless we were a very strong personality. I mean, try to think of an artist who beyond all odds kept doing what they're doing. It's true, it happens. But a lot of times we do have, if we look back for evidence, we have the evidence of somebody believing in us,
Hmm.
right? And you have this evidence of your students loving you, what you've done before. You've come this far in your career. We've all come this
Right.
far. So that's confidence. And then the self-confidence is like just a small part of it, right? So this thought, this fear of that I won't be able to create something that feels relevant
Hmm.
to them, I think we might even simplify that and say, we you don't you fear that others won't want
Yes.
what
Yeah.
you have to
And
offer.
that applies to everybody, right? That
It
applies
applies
to
to
anybody
everybody.
creating a business. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's like at the core of it. So, okay, so when you really look at it, I want you to think about, do you believe that thought, or do you, like, 100% on the scale of 100%, you know, is it sometimes you believe it, sometimes you don't,
It's sometimes,
comes
and
and
what it
goes?
is it is the sabotaging element in everything that I do, right? Is when I'm in the moment and I'm just feeling the passion about everything that I'm trying to put together, and I'm excited, and there's all this enthusiasm and this unconditional love for what I'm doing. And then I stop and I look at it, and then it's the voice that says, what if nobody,
Wants
and
this.
not even nobody. What if only just a few people? And how do I find those few people,
Okay.
right?
Okay, so this is a coaching moment. Okay. So we always answer the question. If you come to, I'm gonna show you, you all have worked with me on this model, right? How far am I? Okay. Oh, I'm backwards. This is weird. Okay, let's see. I'll try to go here. Okay.
That's perfect.
Um,
Oh, yeah, from the
okay,
last
so the
video.
model,
Circumstance.
yeah,
Okay.
so the circumstance, can you see this? It's a little bit dark, but the circumstance is, we're gonna say, just art, arting. You're teaching your concept, you're gonna make the class, right? You're creating something.
Hmm.
And then the thought is, will they want it? Or what if only a few want it? Okay. So when we're doing this model and you come up with a question here rather than a thought, rather than a statement, always answer the actual question. So what if only two people want it? This is what I'm saying, like, take the question that's in your brain and answer it.
Right.
What if only two people want it? Charla, what is the answer to that?
Yeah. For me, the answer is then, what could I do different the next time, right? To maybe make it more attractive to more people.
Okay, that's one answer. Think of other answers. I'm not saying there's a right answer. I'm just saying, when
Yeah.
you answer the question, answer all the possible answers to that question. What if only two people want it? So one answer is,
Yay for the two people.
exactly, right? Yay for the two people. Those two
Yay.
people will give your best version of what you are teaching them at that moment.
Yeah.
And then, yes, you will go in and say, what worked, what didn't work, what can I do differently? I
Right.
have one, two, three, four, five, six other people here today, and maybe a few more that are going to watch this. My goal is to help more people. My goal is to help, a lot of people,
Yeah.
but I want to help one person at a time.
Right.
I've
Right.
had and this is just an example from my past as well. I taught a class on San Juan Island at my local museum. It was a day-long workshop. We did, some promotion. I got all my stuff. I took it there. There were two people there. And there's ways I could have gone. I could have said, only two people. If it doesn't fill, not going to do it. Or I could have stayed and done a half-assed job.
Hmm.
And then, oh, okay, there's only two people. Maybe we'll do an hour class instead of like a 4-hour class. But because of the coaching that I had received from one of my mentors who has a podcast, which is great, it's called The Soul Sourced Entrepreneur. Her name is Christine Kane. She's not doing it anymore, actually. She's doing other things.
Hmm.
But she has this great episode about her as a musician playing at universities, and before she kind of broke out and did other things and made different decisions where she was on bigger stages. At first, she was playing universities and for sort of frat boy at parties. And at one point, she went and played a frat boy party on a stage. She set up. She was traveled like 6 hours to get there. There was nobody there except the janitor,
Oh,
Jim.
yeah.
So Jim watches the show. She played her heart out. She gave him the whole show. It was an hour and a half show of her playing her music. She gave him the whole he stayed at first he was sweeping up, and then he was like sitting in the front row watching her play her music. The next year, she came back and played that same venue. Jim brought all his friends. He brought like 5 people and their wives. They all came up after the show and said, "Oh my God, Jim told us the story that you played for him. And now we're here supporting you." And there were many more people at that show. So this is why we answer the question,
Mhm.
what if only 2 people came? The answers are in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I would still do everything that I was gonna do for so many more people. Right. Right.
And so then once you do it, once you sell the piece, once you have an opening and only 2 people come, and you do that 10 times and only 2 people come, you learn a little bit each time. And
Yeah.
this is the
Yeah.
process,
Yeah.
right?
Thank you.
So
That's good.
that was just so helpful to me, and in my own business, in my own teaching, it's slowly happening in my own art as well. So, okay. So then
Beautiful.
when you have this thought, what if only 2 people come? What is the emotion? What is the feeling that comes up for you
Yeah,
before it's
it's
all
the fear of failure, right? It's the fear of failure, like we're so used to. And I think also because I've had a captive audience,
yeah,
um, yeah, yeah. So there's that fear of
yeah,
failure.
yeah, kind of like dread, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay. So then
Especially
let's
when you're
start with
leaving
this,
something behind to try something else, the risk factor as well. So that,
right?
yeah.
Risky. Okay. So, right, risk. So then you feel these emotions, you have the thought, what if only 2 people come? You have the emotion, fear, dread, risky, feels risky. When you have that emotion, we know our emotions drive all our actions.
Hmm.
So, what actions are you going to take?
Hmm. I'm going to prepare for one person called Jim.
Okay, but hold on. You're still back in your previous model where you're thinking, oh, what if only 2 people come and you
Oh,
feel,
that's
oh,
true.
okay. So let's just
Okay.
stay there for a second. When you feel that dread and risk, what do you do? Or what would have you have done if you felt that fear and, like, ugh,
I don't, well, myself personally, probably like kind of conjured up, no, like, talked myself out of it, right? So, reversed
yeah.
the thought.
Exactly, we kinda spin in our head about this.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
spinning is an action.
Okay.
I'm sorry, my writing's all over the place. Spinning is an action, and what I really suggest when you do these models and try to get to the bottom of some of these thoughts that we're thinking and beliefs and things, that the ones that really dog you,
Hmm.
do some models and really break it down like, "Okay, what is the thought in my head? What is the actual emotion? Let me feel that in my body, and when I feel that emotion, what action do I take or not take?" Make a long list. When I feel that fear, I spin and spin and spin and spin, 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 spin,
Hmm.
write it down a lot. And then also, I don't take action. I watch television. I eat chocolate chip Haagen-Dazs, which this week I had a lot of stress and I bought ice cream for the first time in like a year. And I was watching myself do it and I was like, nothing wrong with ice cream. It's just I know when I do that, it's a sign that like, oh, there's going to be more ice cream and more ice cream, because I'm putting stuffing my feelings
Right.
and my
Right.
stress where I need to take a walk. I need to go get a massage. I need to do things that are better for me. Right. So when you write down all those actions that you're taking or not taking, it helps you realize that your actions create your results. If you're
Hmm.
spinning, not acting, doing a half-assed job in your class with one person, canceling the class, then your result is only 2 people come, right? It's always related. It's always back to this thought. Okay,
Okay.
so now if we're working from another thought of If two people come, I will give it my all. What kind of feeling does that give you?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is I've kind of been in that situation a few times and it ended up being so much fun because it was so much more personal, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, so why don't I go to that first? Why do I go to the oh no,
Yeah. Well,
fear of
because
failure?
our brain wants a big, you want 100 clients, you want 100 people,
Right.
or so with this hope, this future is great.
Yeah.
But to get there, we have to take the baby steps. We have to fail a lot. We have to try a lot of things.
Right.
But if it doesn't happen the way we want it the first time, we're like, I'm done, you know? So if you can expect to do things one person at a time and develop the belief, I am creating classes and creating art one collector at a time,
Mhm.
one person at a time, I'm connecting with people, you know, then you don't, your actions are very different. You you create an opening, you create a class, and you go and one person is there and you talk to them and you give them your attention,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? You write a letter when you write a letter to prepare yourself to sort of like for a show. You think, oh, nobody's going to see this, or only one person's going to see it. What if they did? What if that one person was the important person? Then your actions
Yeah.
are different,
Right. Right.
okay? And then your
That's great.
results are, I am changing the world with my art one person at a time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Any thoughts, more thoughts about that before we kind of move on to another person? Charla, what do you think?
No, no, that's great. That's great. It's just such a it's a wonderful reminder. Um, yeah, because I consider myself someone that's pretty good at humility, but still I can't control the underlying emotion, right?
Of
Which is
shame
the fear of failure and the shame.
and
Yeah, yeah,
humiliation,
yeah.
right? And so this is the thing, the more we are willing to feel shame, humiliation,
Hmm.
and just accept that as a part of being human, the more progress we're gonna make.
Right, right. And that's beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Lessons I'm learning on a daily basis. Okay, someone else, anyone like to sort of dive into this? And I love what you said about being reminded. Who was it? There's a philosopher that said, oh, 18th century writer Johnson. He said, humans need to be reminded more often than informed or
Um,
taught. We know all this stuff, but we need to be reminded. We have
yeah,
good forgetters, as they say in the recovery community.
yeah.
So, questions. Who does anybody want to go? Anne, yay. Okay, tell me your thoughts. Tell me what you're thinking.
Yeah, I think um, I personally have a different way of thinking about confidence, and because I believe that confidence is a natural human thing in ourselves when we're connected to ourselves, whatever you want to call that self,
Yeah.
whether you want to call it the bigger consciousness or if you look at, I'm very influenced by IFS, the internal family system. So
Yes.
so the idea there is you're in self, and in being in self, you're in contact with all of they have like 8 C's. One of them is confidence. And this is natural. And I
Mhm.
feel this really strongly when I am connected to myself. I am completely confident. I'm confident in my work. I'm confident in myself, in being able to talk about my work or talk about anything. And even like I said, I'm the least confident in whether others want my work. But when I am connected, I still feel that there are people who want my work. In fact, I know that as well. But that's a little bit wavery for me. But so maybe I have to work on that a bit. But I think for me, the confidence gets shaken when you allow yourself to identify with you. You talk a lot about thoughts, you know, thoughts and feelings and all that. To me, and some of the references you made around, you know, Descartes and all that, I think therefore I am. And I don't think thoughts are anything really to do with the self, capital S. I think they're just the human bombardment of ideas and feelings, and it's a lot of craziness, to be honest. That's what I think. There's a lot of madness in there, okay? And
Yes,
not to say that the
100%.
brain, not to say the brain isn't useful in its place, it has its place, but I think we get really identified with that where are these thoughts that are going through our minds, including all the negative, you know, all the negative ones. We think that's us. That's not us. I don't think that's us. I think that's all the, pardon my French, but it's all the bullshit that we've learned, you know. And for me, I have to always just get back to the self, which is also work with those things that are coming up, though. You know, you can't just dismiss them. In fact, I suppose you could look at Jung's work, you know, the shadow, which is another way of looking at the same stuff. It's all of that negative, those negative things that are coming up, that's nothing to do with me. I am not that at all. This has taken me so long to realize because I was so identified with those things being me, you know, like being really like, I'm really nervous about this and that. And just you automatically buy into that story, and it's only a story. So I've been more recently putting a lot of work into letting go of all of those things that come up, and you know, befriending the parts of myself inside that are the critic, and you know, if in IFS they also talk about exile. So all of this madness comes from the traumas we all suffered as children, and so it's dealing with those exiled parts of ourselves. They're the ones that kind of cause all the trouble, you know. So I'm not. The more you suppress them, the more for me they just take over. They just take over. So it's befriending them, befriending the critic, because the critic's really valuable in its place, as long as it doesn't take over. So for me, confidence is all about, you know, getting back to that initial self, that underlying pure human energy that we all have. It's all there already. We don't have to do anything. We just have to clear away all of the dross that's floating around, you know. So I kind of look at it differently, you know, than I don't look at it through my thoughts. I don't get too bought into the ideas of it. I get more, for me anyway, it's more helpful to get really in touch with myself. And I can do that maybe through meditation, or there's through art as well. You know, you get back in touch with yourself through just painting or whatever. But you can get distracted. I can get distracted by those things as they come up. And so it's just kind of, for me, it's dealing with them. And yeah, it's just, I hope I've clarified. I probably haven't done IFS much justice, but I think it's a really powerful, you know, modality, as well as Jung's work, the shadow. Working with the shadow, I think we all have to work with that shit and get rid of that, not get rid of it, but like release it, or at least be in touch with it and realize that that's not us. And that's so powerful. There's so much energy there. Once you start releasing some of that, it's so powerful. So I'm kind of in the middle of that right now. So that's where I'm at.
I love it. And yes, 100%. And my approach to all of this is bring it all on, you know, I read Jung, I love Jung, I love IFS. Since we started talking about it, I had some of it before, sort of the family constellation stuff, but now I've started to read more about this as well. You know, meditation, the
Yeah,
Buddhist thought. I mean, this is just the things that I've brought up today are just another language in a
yeah,
sense for talking about the same thing, because
absolutely.
you know, and you can sort of use it all. And this
Mhm.
is, you know, this is my thought about it, or my belief is that I can use it all, right?
Yeah.
Everything, every modality is useful to me. Um,
Mhm.
and that makes me feel this helps me kind of break things down sometimes when I'm having that like little
Oh, yeah,
niggling
that's
thing.
very
And,
helpful.
so when I can break that down and look at it, one thing closer that just like keeps bugging me,
Yeah.
then it allows me to like feel the emotion and literally release it.
Yeah.
You know, so in a sense, it's a process or a meditation process that fits into all these other modalities. It's like
Sure.
a big pie, you know, that we can
Mhm.
choose from. So
Yeah.
thank you for bringing that all up, because yeah, 100%, you know, I love it. And um and when I I don't want to, I love your tool, the Milanote.
Oh, yeah,
Are
yeah.
you willing to just like mention that to these other women
Sure.
here? Because I just want to mention, Anne, as a client, she came to her coaching session and she showed me this system that she has that's like sort of like on your screen stickies. And we don't need to go into it long because we're probably going to be almost done in a few minutes. But um, this is what I love, having clients and students from all over, because we get to share things. And
Mhm.
what it does in the sharing and in the bringing different ideas and different ways of thinking together, it builds the confidence. It builds the reminder that we are 100% worthy as a self, because of our internal positive reinforcement, right? That creates the real self, like you said. And this idealized self comes from this conditional, or one explanation, Carl Rogers, you know, one explanation comes from that battle between our real self and the transactional nature of our thoughts and all of that, right? So it's just a kind of a little different way of looking at it, but I love how Anne used this tool to sort of organize her thoughts around it. Um,
Yeah.
so you want to just like mention what it is, Anne?
Sure. I did actually post it in
Oh,
the
you
group
did? Okay,
thing,
good. I
but
wish
I didn't know exactly where to put it, so I don't think I really put it in the right place because
fine.
I don't think anyone looked at it or found it.
That's
So,
fine.
but
Charlotte's not in there yet. Charlotte, are you in Art Business Circle yet?
No, I'm gonna
Okay.
do that this weekend.
I think
Yeah.
this would be really helpful for you too. And I know Wendy would like it because Wendy does collage and she's very like conceptually, thinks conceptually like this. But do you want to share your screen real quick? I don't know, maybe not, because it's like
That's awesome.
well, I'll just show you quick. I just posted the Milanote URL there for the
okay.
website, and there is a free. You can go in and get it free,
I
but
have the free version of
they
it.
don't give you much bandwidth there, so they kind of force you to get the full thing
Right,
because
right.
it's really very useful for everyone, not only for visual people, it's for everyone, but it is a kind of a visual thing. But you can, oh, will I share my screen just quickly and show you
Yeah,
one?
please.
Okay.
And then I'll bring it back and close it up.
Yeah, sure. Oh, you've disabled, I think you have to enable it, Shannon, for
Oh,
me.
okay.
Yeah.
Now try it.
Okay, let me just see. Yeah, here we go. Can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is just one of the boards. It comes with boards. And this is multiple, the boards are all so these are boards, and then here's the metaphor mindset course. So you go in there, and then I have it broken down into different areas. The first, the different sections, and in awareness, I have other boards, and you can go into each of these, listening to yourself. As Shannon's course is all broken out, I've broken out that way, just for myself, because I really want to learn as much as I can. So this is really helping me to kind of
Visualize it.
through. Visualize it. You can put in anything here. So sometimes I capture something of one of the videos that you do, Shannon, and sometimes I then create my own. So let's see, listening to yourself as an artist, tools of awareness. So these, for instance, tools of awareness, the different tools that you suggest we do. So the Enneagram and all of that stuff, I just put it all in here.
Oh,
You can
fun.
actually dump whole files in here, Word documents, you can dump images, you can put in videos, you can put in URLs, anything at all. So you can keep it all in one place. That's why I like it,
I love it. Okay, so and just the last thing, show them that magician card that you made. She's making a tarot deck.
Yeah, I'm kind of designing a deck with available images. There it is. There, it's.
Isn't that amazing? It's the magician.
Oh, that's lovely.
It's lovely.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's kind of simple, but it's.
Oh, it's the best. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I really love it. So this is the power of coming together, and I felt like one-on-one coaching is really important for people, because you need a place to talk, you need a place to like get sort of specific answers and all of that. But this idea of like having a group, even with just the 4 or 5 of us or 7 of us today, like we've shared some thoughts, and yeah, you have the same anxiety that I do, and you think about this differently than I do. And I just love that. So thank you so much for being involved with this. And also, this helps to build not only confidence in Brooke's definition. We try new things. We've done this now. I now have Zoom group coaching. I can do this. I can help people. But also self-confidence in saying, okay, what's just down the road? What am I going to try next? I'm going to do an opening. I'm going to, put it out there and expect that 3 people will show up, and I will show my whole attention to those 3 people. And maybe one of their friends will buy a painting. Or I think of sales as like a 3-year cycle. People will get to know you. They will love your work. And then they will go through and cycle through. Now that's more in the sales part. There's a lot. I know there's a lot in Metaphor Mindset Studio to sort of go through. And of course, I'm always learning and adding more things. But when it comes down to it, this idea of belief in the self, belief in the art, and belief that others want what you have is a helpful tool to just gauge where you are and say, what part do I have to work on, and what are my tools to work on that with? Okay. Wendy, did you have any thoughts or anything that you wanted to bring up or today?
I've been more in a listening mode today, which is fine. But I relate to all of it, of course.
Wendy's
And
a jeweler, by the way, and she writes about antique gems and vintage jewelry and assesses things, and it's fascinating. She has a great blog. Anyway, go on, Wendy.
yeah, I was just relating to, is it Charla? Is that correct? Okay. When she was talking about when you're feeling passionate about what you're doing, how that confidence is just there. And that's something I'm realizing I have to try to get to that place, because I'm so busy with my job and my real job and other things in my life. And it makes me feel resentful towards these other things I have to do in my life, because I don't feel that way like how I feel when I'm doing the work that I love. And but it's just always good to hear what other people are saying, and then, okay, I'm not alone. When I'm feeling passionate about what I'm doing, I feel super confident in it, and I feel like, yeah, this is what I'm here to do, this is what I love. But then because I've allowed myself to be busy with things that I'm not in love with, that can take over. And so I'm trying to find how to get to being in that place of what I do love doing and letting that support me rather than having to rely on something else.
Okay, well, let's break this down really quickly. Would you like that just before we end? I think this could help
Sure.
everyone.
Okay.
When you were talking, I kind of consider that to be, for this tool, like a thought download, right? All your thoughts, and you could write that all in a journal as well if you want. Just on one level, just to let it go, like Anne was talking about, like, this is not you. This is all just your brain doing things to you,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
That's what your brain does. It produces thoughts all day long, and it does a lot of different things as well. But some of the thoughts are the things that get in our way. And so just to release them, just to write them and release them, or to meditate and release them, however. But also, if there's one in there, that is causing extra pain and extra harm, to sort of take it apart like a little gem, just kind of look at it and assess it with a little distance on it. And one thought that I heard kind of rise out of there is, I resent my job for keeping me away from my passion. This is so painful for so many people. It was for 20 years, that's how I felt before I kind of discovered this work. Okay, so I'm just going to use that as the thought that we're going to maybe break down. When you think that thought, when you allow that, when you don't let that go, when you're in those moments where it sticks, what is the emotion that you feel in your body?
I feel anger. I feel out of control of my life.
Mm-hmm. Okay, those are good ones.
Yeah. And like that feeling of, why is this still happening? Why am I
incredulity, right? How can I let this happen?
How can I be here still? Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I work at an art museum, so that's, I mean, it's
right.
But there's a lot of conflict going on at the museum right now, and it's really not a good scene. And I was writing down, actually, as you were talking about other things, just for my own thing, don't be so available to everyone at work. It's okay to not respond. It's okay to not be available. All of it is a made up sense of urgency anyway. Yeah. And I was like, oh, thank God. I just wrote that down, and I thought, yeah, I don't, so that's helping me to feel a little more in control of my situation. It's like, no, this is all a made up sense of urgency happening right now, and everybody's freaking out. So they're all coming to me, and I'm resenting that.
Mm-hmm. And why is it made up? Because they're all human too.
Yeah.
Right. They're all human, and they've all bought into their thoughts and not let them go. And, like, they all are so in that, the roles they're playing and all of that drama, just like everyone is on some level. And we're all working on releasing ourselves from that.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
So, okay. So when you think I resent, you feel that anger, the out of controlness, and a lot of emotions. And so the actions you take at that point, when you're feeling that, what are some of the actions you take? You just told me an action that came out of it, kind of, that's good, but what else is sort of like in the way?
I guess because I feel responsible that I do need to respond to these people in a timely manner, and this and that.
Okay.
So I have been doing that.
I see. Yeah. So you kind of feel you have adopted actions of over responsibility.
Yeah.
Because anytime we feel out of control, we have that emotion of out of control, it produces over responsibility. Mothers, sisters, family members, women in general, we've been trained to be over responsible for other people's emotions, lives, you know, their actions. We feel like we can control that. You know, and a mother who is like maybe over responsible for their child because they feel out of control, they feel afraid. So, oh, you know, I won't let my kid go play outside because I'm afraid and I don't have control of that. Right. So there's all sorts of like emotions and thoughts wrapped up in this. But I think women in general, I'm just speaking from my own experience and my family of origin experience, when there's a feeling of out of control, we try to control. And then we have feel over responsibility for. We think nowadays how kids, oh, we used to run around the neighborhood and we didn't never showed up until 10 o'clock at night, right? That's kind of how I grew up. And then you see that change as societies changes. And now there's a lot of like, and then COVID happened, right? So there's a lot of like things that come up that have changed the way that we work. And a lot of those are in just our brains. They're not real, like you said, but we've allowed that to kind of rule how we act.
I was just going to say what Anne was saying, how when you're in that place of self, knowing self, again, you see the illusion of it all.
Right.
You know, but it's when you're caught up in the illusion and trying to get back to the self, because you know the answer's there, you know that the sense of grounding is there, but you're just, like you were saying, spinning around, like, you know, trying to control it all, or, you know, like in responding with emails or whatever, I'm feeling it's a way for me to, you know, like, well, I'll just send the email, even though it's my day off, and get it done, you know, just because I don't want to deal with it because it's on my mind. And then that's not allowing me to be free in my business, which I do in my days off, you know, so it's a catch-22 in a way. It's like I'm sort of perpetuating it. And
Right.
I think that's why I just wrote, I don't have to be so available. It's not my job to be responsible for this, you know, so.
Yes.
And that if I don't respond to people for 24 hours, it's okay. Or
And
48 hours.
totally. Anne, go ahead.
I just wanted to say something, Wendy, maybe it'll help, I don't know, but maybe think about if that's familiar to you, that feeling of being overwhelmed and then having to do something from way back in your life, like maybe your childhood. I'm just saying, maybe not, but, and look at that and see what comes up for you, see what energies come up for you. And
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, my growing up was conditional love.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I'm not doubting that my parents loved me, but it was,
we can have both. Right.
yeah, if you do this, then I will reward you. If you, yeah. So I that was also eye-opening today. It was like, oh yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that's so good. I mean, yes, everything that we have in here comes from our past society, like, you know, the patriarchy, like all of these things that we've continued to think or feel. And so therefore those thoughts over and over create beliefs.
Right.
Create grooves, create, you know, stuck places.
Yeah.
And so then this work is just about like, how do I chip that loose and start to believe and think something different? And so then this part of about the resentment, the thought you can believe right now that you're practicing is, I don't have to respond to everything, you know. And maybe there's a thought that you want to get to where I am in this job to facilitate my passion. I have created all of this income and relationships and experience to bring me to this place. I'm exactly where I need to be right now.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of, rushing you to that future, because I know that you've already gone there in your mind. Right.
Yeah.
We have to be reminded of that
I think that's
100%
what it is.
worthiness, and that passion that you have is 100% worthy to have
Yeah.
as the lighthouse thought,
Yeah.
the belief that you can have at any point. You can
Right.
have it right now if you want, because you do control your brain, as much as we kind of think we don't. It's there, but we can put new things into it if we want to. And we can practice those things, and we can put into action those things.
I think you're right. I mean, I know you're right, but
And it's a different, just lots of different ways of thinking about it,
yeah.
or posing it. But anyway.
No, that helps me go back into my work with, this is helping me facilitate my passion. And it is. I mean, I've gotten many clients through working there. I've made tons of connections through working there, et cetera. So I know it's been a good thing for me, but I also know that I can, and Shannon knows this, feel responsible for way more than I am, so that's what's coming clear to me now, is to take a step back and create boundaries, and just like, yeah, no, that's not my issue.
And sometimes, those boundaries and those pain points that it's hard to let go, they're there for a reason, obviously, right? What is it bringing up, right? It's at this point where, like, okay, this is going to create the next phase of my life.
Yeah.
Right. And so pain is there for a reason. We experience such a range of emotions. And sometimes those emotions are there to sort of like spur us on to the next thing. So this is not about only wanting to feel good emotions. It's just about loving what is, in a sense, like Byron Katie says. It's like looking at it and saying, okay, what is happening in there? It's only one thing that's happening. There's lots of other things that are happening. Okay. Well, this conversation about confidence, it was very helpful to me, and I want to express my gratitude for all of your input and all of your expressions, and questions and thoughts and ideas to help me to kind of take what I'm doing to the next level. And so I welcome any emails or comments in Art Business Circle, or anything that you want to do to sort of continue this conversation as we do, in coaching and in the future at any level. So any last thoughts, ideas before we close?
This was great. This was really lovely. And I had watched the recording from a few weeks ago, and so was very familiar with some of the things that you brought up today. I agree with Anne. A lot of like for me, the action often is that unconditional love of the exile, or doing the shadow, the inner child work of, this girl that has, is kind of still haunting me. And but I have to say, Wendy, when I've been in your situation so many times, and each time the only way I got out of it, once I got cancer. And you know what? When I stopped doing all the things that I was doing, the world didn't end. Like everything still was okay. And the second time was when my mom passed away. And it was almost like I needed something so extravagant to get me out of my responsibilities.
Yeah.
And yet the result was not really that bad for, for the organization and the people that I just felt this constant responsibility and sense of urgency to. And so, yeah, so I finally learned to pull myself away
Yeah.
and create those boundaries. And I'm finding myself getting happier and happier. And Shannon, yeah, I just love the action part of this scenario that you have over and over again. Because ever since I watched the video, I've been using that. And the action so many times is just that love and forgiveness and that gentleness and kindness with myself. Because I have a feeling what I'm seeing just in the last recording and what we did today, that we have a lot of overachievers, a lot of ambitious and passionate people, and overachievers are so self-sabotaging. So I know yeah, this is just beautiful. So thank you, Shannon.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, there's so many factors, right? Smart people who think, who are creative. There's a lot going on up there. There's so many modes that we can use, so many tools we can use, and sometimes even that, like we all want to simplify our lives more and just be able to kind of remove that noise and center ourselves when we're at the canvas or when we're thinking about what to do next or whatever. And we need to be reminded of that always. So
Can I just say one
please.
thing there as well? Thank you. This has been really good for me too. So thank you all. But I just wanted to mention, Charla, another thing I find really helpful when you have, your scenario there where you were looking at if only 2 people show up or whatever, I find it really helpful to look at other artists, really some very famous artists who've experienced no one showing up to their exhibitions and then you see them now and it's like, this happens to everyone. So to know that it's like out there, you don't just suddenly have a huge audience, so just, it really kind of brings it back down to earth again, where you know that this is a human thing, everyone experiences it. So, we're all just trying to fumble along and do the best we can in the scenario, so.
That's so good. I just finished reading this book called The Judgment of Paris. And it's about the decade of the 1860s before sort of impressionism took off as a concept. And it's about Manet and the Academy and those shows that came of the people who weren't accepted into the Academy shows like Manet, Monet, and although it came, oh my gosh, the press was just brutal with those artists.
Yeah.
Really brutal. And the whole world of that, breaking away from that academy and how difficult it was. And that was just the men who were well educated in the arts, and not to mention the few women that were even allowed to be there. So when we look at history, like you said, look at other artists, the things that they had to deal with their whole lives. Manet never really, he was always at odds. People always hated what he did. Really. I mean, there were people that were very vocally hating his work constantly until he died. But he kept doing it, It's so fascinating.
So somehow we have to learn. Yeah. We have to learn
Go
to
ahead.
be okay. We just have to learn to be okay with, not being loved or whatever.
Yeah.
That's really hard, but it helps if we love what we're doing, develop the love of what we're doing ourselves really strongly. That's kind of what I think.
So
yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's the belief in self and the belief in art as a concept, And then the others, that triangle, like, gets bigger, but we can work on that. We can work on all parts of it,
What do you think, Shannon, about having those 2 parts of the triangle there very strongly? Do you think the other one just comes along based on the strength of those 2?
I don't see why not. I think anything can happen. And I feel like belief creates more belief, doesn't it? When we have good thoughts, when we have our affirmations, when we really work on it in whatever way that we do, it builds more. It happens slowly and it builds more. So yes, I think that's highly possible. And I think that probably happens to us more than we even think, but we're trained to see the negative, right? Our brains want us to see the negative. So when you really looked at it, of what is true, it is there. So like you said, just letting go of the other stuff is helpful.
Yeah.
I do believe that. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
And
you all.
yeah, hope to see you in Art Business Circle, Charla. And
Yes. Yeah,
just
I've got a
something
wedding tomorrow, and then Sunday I've got a block of time that I'm just going to go in and start
awesome,
working my way through the website. So
awesome.
I'm
And
excited.
oh, good. And I can't wait to sort of like talk about Millinode in there. And because I want a couple of people that I know that would like really love that. So I'm going to point it out to them, and
Okay, great.
myself included.
Cool.
All right.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so
So
much.
much. Have a great week. And
Yes, thank you, everybody.
Great
This is
weekend.
going to be fun.
bye.
Bye.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye-bye.